Okay, this is my interview with author Remington Barnett. So, Remington, how do you come up with the ideas for your stories, the plots, and the storylines?
Well, sometimes they come to me like in dream form, dreams, and I don't know. Other times it's like one leap year. Leap year came to me because of these statue things that I had, and I was playing around with them and stuff, and I kind of got the idea for them.
Do you mean figurines?
Yeah, kind of got the idea for it, and I started building off of that, like the characters and
Do
stuff.
you ever get inspiration from real life experiences?
Um,
Well, wasn't The Darkness written after you heard Edgar Allan Poe's A Telltale Heart?
yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah, I guess.
When you get an idea for your stories, how do you go about turning them into a story? How do you start writing it? Take me through your process.
Well, first, usually right after I have the idea, uh, I start building off of it. For example, if my idea comes from a dream, usually the dream is left without an ending. I add an ending onto it in my mind. Uh, I just build off of the thing, like through my imagination. Sometimes I work on like plot idea, where I don't really have the characters. I don't really think about the characters' development. I just kind of start imagining what happens next and stuff. After that, I usually go to the stage where I start thinking about the characters and how they are and who they are and stuff. Then comes the stage which I call live action roleplay, where I pretend, well, I jump around and see what it feels like for certain scenes. For example, in Prometheus Heroes, I sometimes there's a scene where one of the characters gets hit and he goes flying through the air and hits a building. So in the front room, I acted that out, like what it would feel like if I got hit and flew into the air against a building, so I can describe it better. And then I start building a plot in my mind, and then how the characters get along with each other and the relationship with each other. Then after that, with usually with these spin-off stories, they don't start as spin-off stories. I find a way in my mind. I don't know why. Maybe it's instinctively or something. But I find a way to connect the stories. I don't know why. Like uh, all of a sudden, I decided that the whole idea for Prometheus Heroes kind of sounded like something like it fit into the beginning-ish of Prometheus, the background. And then after that, after it kind of fits in with the other stories, which doesn't always happen, I kind of, if that does happen, I kind of make the characters form history, like the character who sends the text message. Yeah, and then after that, I start my rough draft. Usually, the beginning is the hardest part for me, so I usually just begin it, and then later on I adjust the beginning. Uh, I usually begin it with action though to get to hook the reader, and then after that stage of the rough draft, I go into editing it, like sending it to people to so they can correct spelling and grammar and stuff and ideas, and then after that I go to the stage of reading it over myself to make sure everything sounds good, maybe adding like last minute scenes or taking some stuff out because I don't think it sounds good or it's needed there. And then after that, it goes through the final process of editing. Then I have the final copy, and then make sure everyone I know gets, or everybody who involved in editing it, gets to read the final copy, and then go see if I can get it published.
Thank you. What about your diction, the vocabulary, the words you choose to write? How do you, what kind of process do you use for that?
Well, I usually go over it in my rough draft. I try to stray away from using more better vocab because of I'm not sure because it comes to my mind and I'm not sure if it fits what I'm trying to describe,
Mhm.
if the meaning is what I think it is. So I use a different word that I know is that meaning. And later on in the second draft, I go and ask questions like look up on dictionary or ask you what the meaning is so I can type in more better vocab.
I see. How do you decide the names of your characters?
Well, actually, that's an interesting question. The guy characters, usually the main character, always start off with naming him Alex until I find out any other name, more suitable. Uh, I usually wait for a while before giving them a final name. I experiment a little bit, try to see which one sounds good. Sometimes, if I'm stuck for a name, I'll see which ones like kind of fit the personality, you know.
Hmm. Is that why you hold off on naming your characters? Is because you're waiting for their character, their personality to develop so that you can? So, what do you do if you get writer's block?
Uh, I do a few things. One of them, which is I sometimes stay awake at night and think about stories. When I get writer's block, it's usually I just don't know how to put the words down on the page.
Well, and how do you resolve that?
Um, I don't know. I just wait a while. Sometimes I work on other pieces, and then I come back and write that.
So you take a break and
Yeah.
come back. How do you decide what information to give the reader and what to hold back?
It's a tough question. Usually, in some cases, I start writing without having thought of most, like the ending, future plot. Just like as soon as I get the idea, I
So
start
it's
writing it
like
down on the
you're
page.
giving the reader information as you're thinking of it.
Yeah. Uh, Also, I in the beginning of the story, I choose not to get the reader that much, just enough to make him want to, him or her, try to find out what's
So
going
like
on.
give them enough to ask questions and want to know the answers, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times readers will write into a writer and ask them to explain something, explain what they meant by a certain passage or what their intention was in writing the book. Some of the writers feel that they shouldn't explain their writing. What's your opinion?
I agree with that. I think that the reader should be left to interpret it their own way,
Hmm.
and that way it makes it so it's a different experience for everyone who reads it. They get something else out of it. Also, if you do it that way, they usually out of it they get like a big like depth, like a big huge moral that the writer himself might not have intended for them to get out of it. Like this whole complex idea that they might get out of it. So that way, it makes your writing sound even better than it actually is.
Okay, well, if you don't have anything else to add, I think that concludes our interview.
Yeah. Uh, Another thing is that I'm awesome and epic, and that you should read my stories. And I have a lot coming up.
I agree. Thank you for your time, Mr. Barnett.